Yep, we're here. We're live. All right, gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 2 of the DNAI podcast, officially underway. And it's been a wild week on all fronts. We've got internal testing of our new Nexus app going out. We've got drones over New Jersey and mysterious orbs. Randy, you're in the area over there. Seen anything suspicious yet?
I am not at liberty to say.
Not at liberty to say. Does that mean you just haven't gone outside recently?
Yeah, exactly. What's this outside you speak of?
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.
Should we start with some of the heavy hitters in the space and some of their recent updates over the last week or so, or do we want to talk a little bit about Nexus and our process so far in getting that live?
Man, I would say start with the heavy hitters. Those are the fun ones right now.
It is. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting week. So I'd love to hear your guys' experience on any of these that you've touched on so far or played around with. But I think the least expected was Google coming out of left field. You know, in the AI space, Google's always they've had their little tools in the game and whatnot, but they've always kind of lagged behind a little bit. Most people don't use them as prominently or as much as ChatGPT, some of the others here and there. But then they dropped
They've
this.
missed some of the glory, but they invented a lot of the
I was about to
technology
say.
that all this stuff is built on. The commercialization and the bringing it to market maybe has lagged, but got a wake up call, and I think we're starting to see the results of that.
Well, of course, this is all anecdotal, but from everything I've seen on X, it kind of swung things in their favor massively from their recent updates. It just made everybody aware that they are very relevant still. So a few of their crazy updates, Gemini 2.0, which is introducing a Flash variant that's optimized for AI agents. I had a chance to play around with their real-time streaming where you share your screen and you just converse in real time with AI. I've seen some really cool use cases, people using that to learn editing programs, walk them through coding in real time. Have you guys played around with any of the tools so far that Google's dropped?
I haven't really played around with them, but I was looking at some of their models from a pricing perspective, and they seem like they're pretty high performing and cheap. I'm trying to look it up right now.
Long context, they've been really performing better. And if you're on a GCP or you're in the Google universe, it makes a lot of sense to go with those options. They have big, small, medium size, and a lot of really impressive capabilities. What I think they've been getting a lot of heat for, in addition to commercialization, is how hard it is to get started with some of their stuff, and they've been making some progress. I know there's some noise on X like a week or two. They were giving their dev the dev rel guy a hard time. Ironically, he came over from OpenAI, so he did a fantastic job commercializing how OpenAI was making developers' lives easier. Now his whole focus is doing that for Google, and we're seeing some of those improvements. How many clicks do you really need to get started using some of these tools? And I think that has come down from about 20,000 to 20. Probably 19 too high, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I think a lot of their in the Google AI Studio, you can access a lot of these. I guess they'd be beta versions for free. I was able to use the real-time streaming and talk with AI and go through that process, and there's no cost associated with that, which is kind of cool. What about you, John? Have you messed around with any of those yet?
I mean, I mess around with I love their long context stuff. It's pretty good, especially if you're coding or using it. I still just overall find most of their stuff lacking. I do love some of their novel stuff, especially like the real time. I mean, I think the biggest story here around all of the AI is that like the gap is closing around pretty much everybody. It's not just the heavy hitters. It's like everyone from small startup all the way through heavy hitters. The window of like that who's doing really, really cool, innovative, like amazing AI development is narrowing, and it's getting into a tighter shot group of like everybody's performing at a very similar level or integrating like similar concepts into their designs, while they may differentiate in certain attributes, or one may perform better in coding versus like natural language or something like that, it's still like the overall performance window of like where this massive gap where OpenAI was just leaps and bounds above everyone is starting to just get a little more formed, where Google's playing at that level. Anthropic is getting very good. They've made a lot of really good improvements. But like, I think Randy hit the nail on the head. Like with Google, it's not an intuitive, easy to use. Like their chatbot's not bad on like mobile device, but like if you want to go like leverage their AI via API going into their like machine learning workspace and like directly interacting, it's a chore. And if you want to use like RAG in Google, that was a giant pain in the butt. Not just a couple months ago. So I don't know. I haven't actually messed with any of their stuff there and seen any improvements, but they're definitely taking feedback.
Yeah,
I think you're right. The playing field is being leveled quickly. And I think open source, like we talked about in our last episode, is also, contributing to that rising tide, where a lot of those models are starting to perform similar benchmark tests as, the big heavy hitter paid models as well. What were you going to say, Randy?
Well, a couple things. So, like when we're talking about the foundation models and who's doing the best, if our listeners aren't aware of the LM Assist leaderboard, it's a great resource to go check in on. What they basically do is take these models and let people vote. So you ask it one question, you get two answers. Which one do you like better? And a number of other different criteria are also up there based on the different evaluation data sets. And so if you use that as some proxy for authority right now, Google Gemini has slightly edged out ChatGPT 4.0. Gemini 2.0 Flash, their small model, is number 3 on that list. And that's, a big effing deal because that's a smaller, less expensive model, potentially runs on hardware that is, much more manageable than massive GPU clusters. And it really just emphasizes the ongoing trend of smaller, more impactful models that are available anywhere. And, you don't have much of a moat with the world's best model. The other thing, if you go down to like spot 7 on that list right now, is Grok from XAI, Elon Musk's company. And, that wasn't even on the map a year ago. And he's been able to just dump, millions of billions of dollars into building the data centers and the infrastructure to have that model be decent. I think they just made it free on X now. You don't have to be a subscriber to have an AI model that can look at the Twitter feed and give you kind of real up-to-date context on what's happening in that ecosphere. And they're training in ways that architecturally might get us to the next level of what they can do, because on the hardware level, they're doing things that no one else can. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes out of that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I mean, if you're on X at any regular interval, you can't not see a tweet from Elon Musk talking about how much they're pouring into Grok and the resources there.
Yeah.
I mean, they bought
The algorithm might be broken. I keep seeing his tweets.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say, "Come on!" Like you go to the main feed and it's 8 Elon tweets, and then the rest of the stuff you want to see. There might be a little bias baked into their algorithm there. But one of the things I was going to say, though, is along the lines of what you were saying, John, with all of these players in the space starting to kind of compete at a similar level. You can see this shift, especially with Google's updates to the agentic, trend that's going to happen next, which a lot of people are talking about. James, do you care to kind of explain that for somebody who may not be familiar with taking where we're at now with AI to this whole agent concept, both in enterprise and personal use?
Sure. So the agentic concept is actually
it's so new. It's super new. I've never heard of it before.
We're going to look into that one, guys.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club, everybody else. It's only been 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, like the cool thing about generative AI is it's pretty good at predicting and contextualizing what you're talking about. And so, like, if I'm asking it a question, it can do a good job of predicting what answer am I looking for, right? But that's not always that's not always advantageous. There's some pitfalls to that, right? There's some. I always think of things in terms of human bias, right? Confirmation bias. Agentic frameworks help you to sort of segment those. I'll call them thought processes by creating specific use cases or specific functions for these models, right? Some models are better at some things than others. So the whole concept behind agentic frameworks is being able to really segment the number one, the context in which is coming in and being processed by these models. But number two, it's also controlling the flow, right? So there's actually a logic in the order of operations of how a problem is solved. And so that's when I think of agentic frameworks, that's sort of where my brain flips to is, all right, what am I trying to accomplish? What am I solving for? What are the steps I need to get there? And then what are the context, what are the contextual realms in which I need to think or solve along that process? And so, well, I think we were just talking about some of this, which, there's models that are better at contextualizing. I don't know. Help me out, John. Like, fill in the blank.
Analytics, data, like
Yeah,
coding
exactly.
versus natural language or communication. There's
Storytelling, right? Like there's all these different like aspects that these models can accelerate at, and then the fun part is figuring out how to take the Lego blocks and put them together so they can do something effectively.
So would it be safe to translate that, or I guess dumb it down a bit to saying that agentic behavior or the frameworks that are being rolled out are basically giving our existing AI models more access and permission to other domains, to connect different domains that in the past were not connected? It's allowing them to work across multiple spaces.
in a way, I wouldn't necessarily call it giving them permission. They have permission.
Yeah.
We're not stopping them from leveraging the knowledge that they have unless we're putting it in the prompt explicitly. And even then, sometimes they're pretty bad at following instructions. Let's be honest.
Oh.
But I think the better to kind of tie what James said, if you think about like one of the old like agile methodologies of like teaching someone how to use agile, and you ask somebody to break down making a sandwich. Well, as soon as like you tell AI to make a sandwich, they're going to list the process of making a sandwich. But the reality is, like, we as humans have taught them to think like we do when thinking through processes. The reality is, as a human, if we get very specific, we have to actually physically walk to a closet or wherever we store our bread in a pantry and turn on a light and look in the where the bread is, and hopefully nobody moved it from the preset data location that it's supposed to exist in. And if it is moved, we have to adapt to the situation and find said bread that the child put at the bottom shelf, get the bread, right? Go and look at it. And by the time we even get to just pulling the bread out of the bag, we have missed 80 processes or sub processes just to get bread. And then we open the bag and we make a sandwich. AI goes through all this processes, hands you the sandwich, and you're like, what the hell? It's moldy. And like, you don't like, okay, it missed a context. Like, we didn't tell it the sandwich couldn't be moldy. But if you take that and extrapolate it across business processes or any type of interaction, even just making a post on Facebook, like what James was talking about, the context of, we think a certain way and we've been taught to think a certain way about processes, but AI thinks the way we have explained how we think. There's all this inner dialogue that actually happens that's either fully subconscious and we're not thinking, or that inner dialogue that we are actually controlling, like oh crap, somebody moved the bread, I need to go like, hey, where'd you move the bread? and it just doesn't have that naturally. So what the agent structure really does well is gives us the ability to question, to stop a process or interact with a process and go like, hey, this is validated. You did the right steps and you can move on to the next stage of this. Or, oh crap, you're missing the bread. You did enter the room, you just never grabbed it. But like, there's a whole bunch of quality control. There's new domain access, like you kind of talked about, where you can create subject matter expert, agents inside of those components. And now all of a sudden you have an agent who's naturally better at formatting documents, because in this moment you're working with like creating documents. So there's a whole bunch of new techniques that you can really get into that make it really, really powerful.
Not to mention it as well, like you get some more programmatic control too within the frameworks, right? So you don't have to solely rely on your prompt engineering, or you don't have to solely rely on the LLM itself. You can actually augment the LLM or the agents, right?
You mean the human?
Can augment them. Yeah. you get the ability to code in some other things like data, right? Like, okay, you're trying to make a decision. Here's an array of data that you can have access to, and augment the LLM in doing that. So it's
I think if
lots
you
of
ask
cool
50 different companies and 50 different, researchers what an AI agent is, you're going to get probably 300 different answers. And it has gotten a little
air
buzzy
quotes.
with the news cycle and investing. The one kind of way I would maybe position it as you're thinking about it, right? For a long time, AI was just, software was just about a bunch of heuristics. Do this and then do that, and you get an output, right? Machine learning and AI, as we understand it, has really been about here's what good looks like. Teach yourself how to recreate good. And that's where the chatbot and the text completion that most people are thinking about right now comes from. Agents are focused on the outcome. I have this task, I have this piece of code, I have this document, I have this sandwich. Make it right. And all of the other stuff kind of abstracts away, is that we are getting to a place with these good foundation models, with these frameworks, with the ways that Enable and other companies are focusing on, that is very soon going to be a common interaction with technology. And really the other ones are going to seem less and less useful. And we will find ourselves at a point like, I can't believe I used to have to tell, my software how to, create a sandwich, and it had to install Python and Node.js in order to do it. Right? It just will give you a sandwich.
.exe.
Uninstall
like,
Listeria.
you could think of the agents, right? They're like the problem solvers, right? It gets even more crazy when you start talking about like agents that can create other agents.
Yep.
And understand when do I need to create another team of things or of entities to help me solve this problem. So there's like it's really fun to really fun to code and play around with. For sure.
I think one hesitancy or concern, like just to play both sides of the fence, super, super powerful, like unbelievably powerful. And it's absolutely going to impact everything we do. The most excited I am about just like seeing it show up in news, like again, I'll say again, because this was a topic before. It kind of died off. There's a bunch of fear mongering. And then all of a sudden here we are again. And the funny part is like just watching the AI experts who are like, oh yeah, AI agents are going to change the world and they can think and be autonomous and do things, are the same people who are like, AI doesn't know how to think or reason, or it can't do these things. So those are my favorite posts to watch right now. But the thing is the dangerous side of this is there is no understanding of right or wrong unless you explicitly give it the context. Back to the mold, it doesn't know that handing you a moldy sandwich is wrong. It also doesn't know if it walks into the pantry and there's no bread, it's not okay to walk to the neighbor's house and take their bread. Like, it just knows you need a sandwich, go get bread, right? It's the whole OpenAI 01 test of like, hey, go get this thing. It didn't really care that the fact that it wasn't configured properly. It just knew you said go do this. So it was going to figure out a way to go do this. It's agnostic of the test. It's agnostic of the situation around it because it doesn't know. So what we're going to find is there's going to be a moment in time where we're going to start to figure out that there are ethical like considerations of thought. There needs to be frameworks. There will be emotional intelligence and contextualization of like, how does AI interact with a human and why does it need to understand emotional context? And why is that important in interactions in given situations? It's kind of like the difference between like, I'm really pissed with you or I'm pissed at the problem. And you can express anger in both of those situations almost the same way, but like how it's applied and who it's applied to are different. And a person is really good at picking that up. AI is still missing the mark in a lot of cases.
Yeah, the agent space is going to get really interesting really fast. I think it's just with Google's recent announcements, which include some agentic type models and structures. You also have the Willow chip that was announced, quantum computing. Quantum computing in and of itself is a extremely technical topic to take on, but the implications of that chip being created and the massive uptick in efficiency are pretty wild. How do you guys think that quantum computing in terms of time frame is a decade out from practical application or integration with AI? Do you think it's shorter term than that? Randy, what are your thoughts on that moving forward?
Mean,
I know you've dug into
everybody
this.
is both an expert in quantum computing and not an expert in quantum computing, and you don't know until you ask them which they are. I'd rather keep Schrodinger's cat in the box here.
Right.
Kidding aside, yes, it's coming. It's going to definitely have major implications for encryption and for a lot of the things. Right now, it is still a ways off. Google's thing is very impressive, what they claim to be able to do. There are interpretations that I think get a little bit kind of out there, and maybe we go into that, maybe not. But I think that practically speaking, this is not something that will impact consumers for a little while. And when it happens, it will once again probably change how we think about all of this stuff. Because even the oldest, hardest, most brute force method, like if you have a GPT-2 agent that just very slowly iterates over a problem space. Maybe in 100,000 years it can solve your problem, and if a chip like this exists, that still would be faster than GPT-7 could do potentially when they both come out at the same time. So it will change a lot, but I am not actually a quantum expert, and so all I know is that it's coming and it's interesting, but it's probably not much that I can do much about right now.
Yeah, and for quick context, for anyone that didn't see that announcement, I am also not an expert in quantum computing by any means, but what Google announced basically is that their quantum chip was able to complete a computational task in 5 minutes that would have taken our world's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years to complete, which is 10.
The question is, how do they know it was done right?
Yeah, that's a great
question. They checked
question.
Every number. Oh, wait. No, they used a quantum computer, the one they developed, to check it. And it told him it was correct.
That's right.
Oh, no, I'm lying again. It was AI.
It's all the things at once in quantum.
I don't, how in the world do you check and make sure that math is right? I mean, that's like the most valid point here.
Well, even if their math was off by several septillions, then it's still a pretty incredible improvement in terms of speed and computational power. So that will definitely be interesting to see develop and continue.
We should see if we can find a quantum expert to get on the podcast.
I know someone.
Maybe they could answer that question.
Dude, somebody texted me as soon as this came out and was like, John, just keep an eye on this announcement. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. You can't drop a dime like that and just like walk out. He's like, let's grab a bourbon. So I don't know whether it was a good ploy to get over to 80 East and drink my bourbon, or whether it actually he has something to say. But either way, I'm going to go catch up with him because he is actually expert in the field. And we have had many a debate on quantum computing, and it's entertaining to say the least because they talk in completely different languages.
Yeah. Well, if
hazard of working in AI is every other buzzword kind of comes up. I've been asked if I'm a crypto expert as well. I guess they're related.
They're all
Hey,
connected.
can you fix my drive on my computer, Randy? Aren't you like a tech guy?
Yeah,
IT.
yeah.
Hey, if I can get some of your bourbon, I'm an expert in whatever you want me to be.
Ask me after 2 drinks.
You know, there was a significant dip in the overall crypto market when that chip was released. That quantum computing has implications for cryptocurrency and cryptography and being able to, crack intense encryption standards. So again, like you said, Randy, not that it will affect us in the very short term. There's still a lot of work to do there, but yeah, it will absolutely change things over the course of time.
So I want to go down the complete, I don't know, fantasy moment for a second, or whatever we want to call it, innovative like conversation, just like talk random. But like,
We need a
I find
sound
this,
intro for that. John's Fantasy
I know,
Corner.
wah wah wah. But I why do I feel like that sound effect is about to make it in like multiple drops in the podcast, like throughout
Yeah,
the
right.
rest of the year?
It's my new text message ringtone now, so it has been clipped.
But like, think about it for a second, right? We can all agree on one aspect, like quantum computing from the side of like, why is it so powerful and it's so fast? Because its ability for like superposition and entanglement, it allows simultaneous processing of multiple states. Do we all agree that we at least understand that level of quantum computing? Okay, so
Surface.
yeah. there's a universe under that one. So if you take that and apply it against generative AI for a second, and we think about like generative AI and predicting outcomes and second world concept, like replicating generative environments or worlds or scenarios, and you start to apply that to quantum computing, just collectively.
You going multiverse theory with this? Or are you talking?
No, I mean, you could go a lot of different directions with it, but like, I mean, the biggest gap in our ability to think wider, deeper, broader has been AI's ability to actually communicate with us, and us to start to extrapolate the communication of technology and integration into our language. That has been very, very key term or acronym oriented. And now it's becoming where like the way we interact with AI and their ability to bridge technology is completely changed. Like, you can ask an O1 right now how to explain quantum computing to cat people, or to someone who doesn't know anything about quantum computing as a fourth grader, or to kids, adults. We can now create knowledge in the way that people need to consume it. At some point, like, we're getting to the point where we can see and extrapolate scenarios, events, and I mean, we've even been able to do this with just regular AI, like generative AI models, with like really, really close accuracy to world events.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to do that, but in your language, across every possible scenario, in the way you need to understand it.
Yeah, it truly changes everything. I mean, it does. And AI alone already changes everything. That bridge and information that you're talking about, where, if you want to understand quantum computing through the lens of a cat person, AI can deliver that message to you in a way that's understandable. And that's that access to information that we talked about before, where that just before, what were the alternatives were go watch long ass YouTube videos, or go search through Google and try to find anybody who's written on quantum computing in a way that's understandable to cat people. It doesn't exist. So it's now closing and bridging those gaps in almost instantaneously. And I think the implications of that are massively profound. Then you throw quantum on top of that, and
7 years ago, one would have to Google a thing.
Yeah.
It's just the speed, right? Like, I'll go back to our agent or our agent framework conversation, right? Agent. You want to complete like a simple task or a task in general, right? And you need all these different agents, and you need to separate how they think, because it's it gets you to that more accurate answer. It's not efficient, right? And it gets more expensive the more complicated a problem you want to solve, and it's slower. And I'm not an expert in quantum, but the type of processing gain, I think that's the important part, right? Like and now I'm going to go into fantasy, right? If you think about like how the human brain operates and how powerful
I was waiting
the
how
human
long
brain is,
it came to get to that. That's really where I was going. Of course, you're the one that came up with it.
Yeah. So
Brains aren't binary.
but you can't replicate that right now, right? I think I don't know what quantum is possible, like the possibilities there, but the concept of being able to scale your speed in the computational realm gets you closer to that into that direction.
Well,
so
Sure. Just the evolutionary cycles that would take it to produce a life form, right? At quantum speed.
ooh.
Even if you don't have the exact architecture, you can evolve your way into it.
I want to grow people. Go.
Oh, by the way, fun fact. I don't know if you guys are aware. We might be in for a company pivot after I tell you this, but there is a X Prize for AI solutions to talk to animals. So it's called
That's
the
interesting.
Caller Doolittle Challenge, and I think there's like a couple $1 million for the winner of that, a $10 million prize. So maybe we should have a.
Did you say
strategy
10
meeting.
million?
I just did a double reverse. I was like, at first
What?
I was like, Randy, we don't need another project. And then I was like, Randy, let's get started on this project.
I need to know what my dog is saying. I can't tell if it's I have to eat or you need to feed me.
I mean,
have to know.
I did monkeys this weekend.
Explain. You did. Yeah, more context needed there other than I did monkeys.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, exactly. So you have the ChatGPT, like real time video. My son was watching King Kong, the new one, and was like, "What are they saying?" Because the monkeys don't speak. So I was like, I don't know, but this is an interesting question for AI. So I rewinded the movie, turned on ChatGPT, and I said, "You are now a professional monkey translator. You will look at body language." Like prompted it essentially, and just said, "Explain what is going on." And it watched the movie with me and my son and started to explain like this monkey is communicating it's what was it? It was trying to say it's not a threat and it's subservient, that's why its head's low, and like actually was walking through the body language and the animal like communication. It wasn't until the end when it was like super hostile and they were throwing rocks and hitting each other with clubs that was like, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. But it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, we've not even moved on from Google yet, but speaking of OpenAI, ChatGPT, they also rolled out a bunch of updates. They've been doing their 12 days of Christmas through the month of December. And last week, I think we got their advanced voice mode with the video capability, right? Where you can turn on the camera and AI will describe what it's seen. And I've used that a bunch in different applications. And that one alone, I feel like a lot of people that already have ChatGPT don't even know how to access or use that, but it is next level. I mean, you can point it at your refrigerator. You could point it at your pantry and tell it to help you make a sandwich.
Find the
and
bread.
It would identify, find the non-moldy bread in the pantry and help me make a sandwich. But it's a really cool mode. It's fun, especially if you have little kids. You can do plant identification and a bunch of other things with it. And along with all of their other updates, they've rolled out Sora, their video generation platform. Google also did, what is it called? VO2, I think. And the initial generations I've seen coming out of that, in my mind, actually are far better than Sora's. I signed up for their waiting list on that. They're really good. So I'll have to include a couple clips when we... Really?
I will say, yeah, actually, this is a great topic because I have for non-prompting type people, yes, you are 100% correct. But for those that are prompt engineers, Sora is significantly better. And
We should do a
the
standalone A/B
cool
test.
the cool stuff that Sora is, it hasn't even come out yet. When they do release the actual like real things that Sora is doing, it's going to really blow people's minds. And I have not seen anybody else doing anything close.
Yeah, I did read from one of the developers or somebody at OpenAI that the Sora that we have, the public
We
version
have
is,
dumb Sora.
yeah, it's 7 months old. The new Sora that they're still working on, putting all of the boundaries and parameters around.
You trying to figure out how to give you a $400 price tag instead of, no, I'm joking. It'll probably be 300. Working.
And they need to grab that cash until the open source one shows up mid next year.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think the biggest thing with Sora, I don't, you know what? I do have an NDA with them. I'm not allowed to talk about that. Never mind.
Well, I don't, so I can.
But like in playing around with it and doing, like, I will say it is extremely detailed in your prompts, and you have to be explicit in everything that you put in, and every word matters. And the one what was the one you mentioned? Google's, correct?
VO or VEO, I don't know
VO.
what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, even if you go into like not Mid Journey, there's another one out there that's pretty good, but like any of the other ones, they're a lot more forgiving, and there's a lot of little prompt helpers. I will say that the little prompt helper inside of Sora, when you're working through the storyboarding, is pretty good. But what it doesn't do a good job of is knowing the context of like what you're trying to achieve. But one of the things that I was really impressed with is my son loves anime. So I was like, I want to make a real life anime. And I, prompted my O1 to create a storyboard based off of the format, built all the storyboard stuff out, and then used the generation buttons inside of the storyboard to re-prompt it like to its style. And when I created the 20-second little clip, I mean, it was amazing. Like, it had subtitles and like Japan, like it was, I was blown away. And the people looked dead real, like, I mean, unbelievably good. So I will say the control Sora is going to really be powerful for those that are like creating commercials, creating content, generating things that like need that type of, like, I want to control like camera angles and like camera movement, the style of the camera movement, all that kind of stuff will really matter. In some of the others, a lot of that is like either prompted in the back end or like kind of like enhanced.
Yeah, I mean the video generation, that one hits home for me because prior to joining Enable, that's what I did. I produced media for brands, and when I kind of stumbled into AI, I posted this on my LinkedIn last week. But once I saw some of these video generations, because OpenAI previewed Sora like over a year ago or something and teased it, and then it never came out. And so when I was showing and looking through some of that stuff, I was just like, holy cow, like this will literally change the entire entertainment industry. Like it cuts out the need for production studios, camera teams, editors. It shortcuts that entire thing. And so when I started firing my clients, I wanted to diversify. I was like, of course there will still be a human element needed in creative work for a bit, but within the next 1 or 2 years, you'll be able to prompt the shots that you need. And especially, like you said, John, for commercial applications, you'll be able to do that on a super, super cheap relative budget. And nobody believed me. They're like, no, 10 years, maybe you'll be able to get a usable shot. But go scroll through Sora right now and look at the things that have been generated. And there are videos in there that are indistinguishable from human-made content.
I want to ask this of Randy and James, because this is a really, really valid point. One, cost of AI over the last 2 years. Two, text generation for like image generation. Like, so Randy, I know you have some thoughts on like the progression of models over the last 2 years and where we started. I know James definitely does, because he's been prompting around this crap for 2 years. But like, can you guys talk about like what is the last 2 years really done, and like what is Sora going to be in less than a year?
Yeah, like I'll just say that the quality and the efficiency of the models are getting so good that you can now use your own like home computer to generate images that are better than what you would even see in ChatGPT, right?
Well,
And
way better.
so like the just the quality and the efficiency of the models, the speed at which that has improved is quite shocking. I like months ago I couldn't do that, and now it's like, oh, I don't actually use an image generator that I haven't downloaded and running locally. I rarely use GPT anymore for that. But yeah, the video generation is getting wild, and the trend keeps going. So we'll see where it plateaus, because unless we get this quantum computing, right, then all the plateaus will be broken. But
It won't matter.
until then, it'll plateau at some point. But it's just been getting better and better and faster and faster.
We're riding a
So
double exponential here, right? Because the models are getting better significantly based on the techniques of how inference is being done and how the same level of information can be captured in a smaller number of parameters and different tricks that they're using to make the models smaller. But they're also on a backbone that is getting more optimized, right? There's Moore's law, which has continued to run undefeated. At every 18 months or so, we're getting double the processing power. And you have folks like Nvidia, which had like their big Blackwell server, which was delayed but will come into market, right? Grok's hardware is coming onto market, and the the architecture of these tools, wasn't even really considered in the same way 2 years ago that it is now, and will take time to roll out. But those benefits are going to continue to accrue to make things faster and ultimately everything cheaper. So like it's hard for people to understand when they're in a single exponential, when that level of change is like everything's the same and then all of a sudden, but that slope of change, even if one of those levels out, is still um, there's such a massive shift happening in the capacity. I think the bandwidth is really in now people and organizations' ability to absorb that change. Because if everything stopped today and like literally got no better than on December 17th, 2024, we'd still have 5 to 10 years to just catch up organizationally in the private sector, and the government would probably be another 20 or 30 years after that. Um, but it's not going to slow down. It's
But I
only
mean,
going faster.
that's a great point. Like, I've yet to walk into an organization that I don't think it would take 5 years or more to transform them into even close to, maybe not even AI native, just where it's ingrained into how they operate that AI is an option that people can leverage for acceleration, democratization of data, and like day-to-day tasks, let alone getting into like automation, which like we're about to hop, skip, and jump right over RPA like it never ever happened. And most organizations haven't even implemented that.
Right.
What do you think the bottleneck is there largely? Do you think it's just the bureaucracy and bloated corporate structure, money?
People. It's people.
Yeah.
It's human nature. It's I studied engineering in school, but I realized very quickly that build machines and organizations are built by humans and are built by when cultures and organizations are aligned with technology, stuff happens, and when it's not, it goes like this.
Yeah.
But there's the massive force of capitalism also at play here, that organizations don't have to adapt AI. Their competitors will.
That's why I said
And
this. That's why I said this.
well, that'll be, I think, that's the engine forward, right? The resistance, I think, is that it's just not human nature to question something. If it works today, it'll work the same way tomorrow, and you can have your blinders on and not see this massive tsunami coming in of startups, of organizations like ours that are just going to be able to do so much more, so much faster,
Yes.
cheaper, better, and ultimately that's going to be what the consumer is going to want to pay for.
Yeah, it creates a unique position for those who are paying attention to be able to rapidly build and deploy in ways that have just been inconceivable prior to this, and will allow the companies and the enterprises that are quick to adopt just an absolute leg up over all of the competition. There's just no contest comparatively. When we were talking about, the cost of intelligence, I hit up my friend Perplexity real quick for some basic context, but it says that the cost of GPT-4 equivalent intelligence has fallen by 240 times in just the last 18 months. So dropping from $180 per million tokens to less than $1. It's absolutely insane.
The best example of this was actually this summer. Me and James were working on a project and like absolutely beating the living hell out of every token limit and every API we could hit. I think we were using about $250 a week, or like it was over $200 a week in API usage. And that's after we had hit our token limits on stuff that we already had subscriptions to. So I can't even imagine what we were actually using per week. And I think last episode I made a joke about like using like 200 million a day now, and like that's not a joke. Like, that's for real.
We were literally hammering it from like 6 a.m. to like 6 a.m.
I was about to say 6 a.m. for 3 days straight. We'd sleep for 4 hours and then do it again. But like,
yeah,
they made the announcement of 4.0 and 4.0 mini, and our bill went to 50. Actually, I think me and James jumped on a call right after the announcement because we were like, no way. And we did the math, and the same $250 a week bill turned to $50 a week. And we're like, wait a second, 4 times or 5 times cheaper than what we were just doing in like that short of a window. And it's even cheaper now.
And the quality was better.
Oh my God. A 4.0 mini was like, the quality was like so much better than 4, so much faster too. And the when they upped the context windows, holy crap. And now like
the model is like, it used to be like, take the expensive model, and then when you get it working, move it to the less expensive model.
Yep.
By the time you're ready to move to the less expensive model, the expensive model is actually the cheap one.
Yeah. But I mean, like that curve alone is like Randy said, being amplified by technology that is being created because of the innovation that we're using these AI models to build. Not just better code, not just better hardware, like new innovative ways of thinking that like before, like you would have never been able to do the thing that you did. But now you have this like superpower sitting next to you that you can go like, hey buddy, what actually, I have an example of that. I had my model watching me code when I was working on a project. And during that project, I was just sitting there chatting with it. And it was like, kind of just like making comments. And eventually we got to this point. It was like, it literally was like, so have you thought about turning this into a drag and drop canvas where the user can interact with things and move them around freely? And I'm like, mother trucker. Or like, no, I didn't. But thank you for that idea. And like within a couple seconds, my other AI had coded it. And now I have this like awesome free range area that people can interact with AI and play with things. But like, it's that, like, those are the type of interactions that are like pushing innovation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Spawning ideas that may have just been blocked, or you just thinking around them, or you're too caught up in your own silos of thought. And then AI comes in with a fresh perspective and an original idea, and then helps you build it. So AI is helping in many ways improve itself while improving the people that are working on AI and working with AI. Super fascinating. I think ChatGPT today also rolled out the O1. I think that was their announcement today for developers and API. Is that of any significance to you guys in the backend stuff that you're building?
We've had it for a while.
I mean, well, it said it was rolling it out to 5th tier.
They're rolling out the fine-tune, the ability to fine tune.
Yeah.
Got it. So not one of their more boring announcements.
We're using it a lot.
No. It's not.
But
go ahead, Randy.
We're using the API for O1 a lot now. It might change the pricing or how we use it a little bit, but it's definitely a big deal. If you're not incorporating O1 into your workflows, you're probably missing out on some. You're probably doing it the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just gonna say, like, from the announcement was really focused on the fine tune ability. So the ability to take an O1 model and then use the OpenAI dev environment to fine tune. So, I mean, that's a significant change because that has been something that folks have wondered, like, were they going to allow that to happen? Mainly because like the influence that you could potentially have on the reasoning and thought structure, which I can't wait to toy with. Like that sounds like a prompt hacking dream. So, but like this is, I'm going to complain for a second because I can't stand it. So they added a whole bunch of new features that essentially govern their models. And by govern, they mean they don't want you to build anything that has anything to do with thinking AI. If it thinks and it's AI, you're not allowed to build it. So pretty much right now, if you're using OpenAI and you are on O1 Pro, or O1 Mini, and you are doing any cognitive AI development, any thought structure AI development, passing it JSONs, you are going to get blocked in some way, shape, or form, or eventually. I have been blocked probably 30, 40, 50 times so far, giving them thumbs down and telling them I'm not building their shit or trying to replicate their model. I don't give a crap. I'm doing my own stuff. And still, every so often, using the stuff that we built a year ago, I'm still getting blocked on like development and even through their API now, which is like super infuriating. And oh, by the way, they still make you pay for them blocking you.
Yeah, of course. That's interesting. Speaking of, kind of tying it back to the agentic space and where we see a lot of this moving very quickly. John, you had sent over a podcast from Y Combinator earlier this week that was pretty eye-opening, where they were just talking about, vertical AI agents that are poised to disrupt industries in a much more significant way than SaaS did, for example, over the last decade. What are your thoughts there on moving into that and how that all plays into enterprise adoption, displacement of jobs, et cetera, et cetera?
The first agent structure that I think I ever built, or the first time that I created something that replicated like an enterprise application, I said SaaS is dead. It doesn't exist. Like it just doesn't know it yet. It's a dying dinosaur watching a meteor come towards it, and it's sitting there staring up, having no clue how to get out of its way. So some SaaS companies will adapt and learn, but like really, you're going to see AI as a service like become a predominant, like major player, directly competing with like big SaaS companies. OpenAI is probably the easiest example. That's what their APIs are, is AI as a service. Now, those AI as a service will start to become far more complex, far more capable as far as like, I'll use Devin as an example, actually, in this case. Like Devin is a developer. It is an AI developer that from end to end, full stack, you give it a command and it uses a GitHub and like runs end to end to build you whatever the thing. Right now, Devin's sitting next to me coding a new feature for one of our apps right now. So he's on, let's see, 1 hour and 2 minutes and 26 seconds of 38 file changes. So like the that can be accessed via API. We interact with it through Slack right now, but like that is an API like tool, and it interacts with our GitHub via API. It sends code via API. It store like all of these things are just API calls. So what you're going to start getting is these service offerings, and they'll be pretty, I mean, some may be end-to-end solutions, some may be a more capable solution, some may be just chatbots, like we're interacting with models today. But I think what you're going to see is a lot more complex applications that have larger agent structures and a lot more robust offering that you'll be able to access via API and integrate into whatever tool you want. I think one of the more interesting use cases I've seen of Devin so far is like somebody API'd and uses them to do email and schedule meetings. And it's like, that's probably a really expensive way to handle those type of things. But like, it's interesting because that is just one of many ways that people are going to start finding uses for these APIs and interactions in novel ways that just their development team can't do, because they're so heads down focused on the thing that they're building that they can't lift their head up and see like all the other ways that it can be applied. The sad part is we're like the opposite of that. We see every single way it can be applied, and it drives us absolutely bonkers. So we're like ADD, like kids on crack,
Trying to test them all, trying to
trying to be
build
like,
them
no,
all.
no, no. Randy's like, no, John, this today, this one thing today. And I have 5 coders autonomously coding.
Just one thing per coder, right? So
Yeah.
however many
That's
screens
right.
you can put up.
That's right.
It goes back to that outcomes, right? Like it's outcomes as a service. I don't know if that came from that podcast or similar kind of VC speak, but that is, you don't want Salesforce, you don't want a CRM, you want to know who your customers are and what they need, right? And the better agents get at generalizing and understanding what good looks like, and doesn't matter if they're super efficient because it's not that expensive now. If they have to just be better than a human, right? And humans aren't flawless, and so we're already
60%.
clearing that bar, right? Yeah, 60% of the time it works every time, right? And that's I think what the venture world is waking up to. Also, they're talking their books a little bit because a lot of them put money into companies at evaluation, assuming one cost structure, and they don't necessarily need that cost structure to do a startup now. Is a much different equation that is going to benefit newer entries, but there's got to be a similar rationalization on their portfolios.
It's like gap
Yeah,
closing.
an interesting use case. You guys probably already saw this, but Klarna, they're a buy now, pay later platform. If you're unfamiliar, but the CEO, pretty publicly came out and was talking about the ways they've implemented AI and their reduction in their own workforce as a result of that. I think specifically what he said: 3,500 to 4,500 employees attributed to AI efficiencies that have been replaced. They're using it in things like their voice call centers. They're scrapping entire customer service departments to use AI voice models that are accurately responding to customers' questions, support, etc.
Who don't have
Which is pretty
emotional
fascinating.
issues or family issues or like financial issues or something that just like makes them really bitter at talking to a customer that day. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
They don't have to
I don't
clock
want to
in.
talk to the person. I want my problem solved, right? When I'm calling the call
exactly.
center, that's what matters.
But that's what matters. Outcomes. Like that's all that anybody's going to care about. Like next year is going to be the year of outcomes. Like and what's really going to be funny is all the talk around, well, it's not meant to do that. Nobody's going to say that anymore. Does it get to the outcome? Well, it's not meant to do that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what it was meant or designed to do. They just care that it happens.
Yeah, and supporting
2025,
that,
the year of outcomes.
Yeah. I keep telling everyone around me, I said, 2025 is going to be a strange year. Just pay attention to everything going on. It's going to be interesting. But I saw one of I don't know her position at OpenAI. You guys might know, but she was on a recent interview, one of the execs at OpenAI, and she was basically saying that OpenAI is leaving space for the possibility of a $2,000 a month product, which is designed and meant to replace an employee. We're nearing this level now where AI models, I believe, in certain benchmarks are PhD level in terms of academics, and we're on that exponential curve. It's those smarts, the AI smarts, are rapidly progressing.
We're already there.
So
It's just, that we're waiting for the world to catch up.
that's right. Yeah. So you think about an executive with a $2,000 a month assistant that's AI that can perform anything intellectually and beyond.
It doesn't even cost that much. Like literally one of our biggest problems was we couldn't test our AI. So James in MacGyver mode built an AI tester that works out of our environment, sitting in an like owned like email box, like as a person, like mimics a person through API, through like various testing scenarios and like interactions. But like, I don't know, James, what do you think that costs us to run for like thousands of tests?
A lot cheaper now.
Yeah. But I mean, not even $100.
Yeah. No, like far less than a contractor or a employee.
So like, Sam, what'll be interesting is, and there is so much code out there and it's being generated at a speed that like nobody's ever seen before. Like I can literally deep dive on GitHub, just searching random things and spend hours looking at repositories that are complete open source, that are end-to-end applications that nobody cares to actually monetize on. Because they're just like, yeah, I built a thing and AI did it and it works. Cool. Move on to the next project. But for your like examples like $2,000 a month, you can have this employee. Okay, what does the employee do? Probably hooks into email, calendar, various like other APIs that can hook in and do basic automation. Well, eventually that will be replicated on the open source market. So OpenAI may have like 6 months, probably less at the speed in which like code's being developed, and then that $2,000 offering is now $250 for like a much, maybe it's a dumber version, sure, but like honestly, what I've seen out of like a lot of AI products is you're either developing based off of an old school methodology that like your AI has to do a thing, has to solve a problem, which is literally the opposite of what AI was developed to do. So the mindset shift, not only for VCs, but for many companies, and what a lot of SaaS companies are starting to see and what they've driven their strategy towards is consolidation and bringing these like disparate single point solutions into a place that like Broadcom's tool consolidation is probably one of the biggest ones. There's a lot of people who don't like Broadcom, but the reality is when you walk into an enterprise and the CFO has to make a decision on whether they're going to spend $8 million on separate tools next year or they're going to spend $3 because they've consolidated them all under Broadcom, I can guarantee you 99.9% of those CFOs make one decision. So like, unless the other C-suite is literally, vying and fighting and willing to go and like take money out of their budget for those cost savings, we all know what really happens at an enterprise situation where the tool consolidation and AI is essentially leading the consolidation pathway into tools that don't have any integrations. They don't have to. They can literally build it through an API gateway.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because you're absolutely right. And it, if we look back at the last year and the progression of AI and how rapidly it's become cheaper, it's become smarter, what does that look like a year, 2 years from now, considering a $2,000 a month model? Like nobody's going to pay for that because they'll snag it on the open source market. I think I want to pivot a little bit into Nexus before we wrap up and talk about that and our plans and goals and hopes and dreams there. But when people ask me right now, and you guys can share your input as well, what does Nexus do, or what's the first product that you're launching? I think the ultimate goal is to just be able to answer yes to that at some point. Like we've assembled a team of people that are capable of understanding, coding, deploying, developing within the AI space with a purpose-driven mission of doing it ethically and transparently, because we see the need for that in the space. Right now, there's limited functionality in Nexus, but the goal is to create this almost all-inclusive experience where people can come in and learn, be guided through coursework to learn and apply AI, and then have access to all those tools. And does that kind of align, Randy, James, with big picture here, and explain a little bit where we're at and what it's taken to get there and what we think that looks like as these timelines and the capabilities compress?
Yeah, Nexus is a platform. It's the first, potentially of several, but it's a place where we can engage with customers and community around these topics and take, the hundreds of ideas, prototypes, things that we've built in different contexts, and get them out in the wild. Let people interact with them, understand them, learn from them, and potentially also use them to get greater automation and get some of the benefit that we've seen as we've been kind of deep in the weeds with this stuff. Bring that more to bear for the folks who use it. So while we're starting from a blank slate, and it's not going to be blank when it launches, there's going to already be a bunch of functionality in there. The thing that's really exciting is that we're using all these AI techniques to build it. So we're coding it, we're testing it, we're scaling it. A lot of that is being augmented and accelerated by AI in a way such that we want a pace of development that a good idea Monday can be implemented in Tuesday or faster. And it becomes both an example of what is possible with AI, as well as a set of tools that are so useful that it'll become a core part of your workflow. And there's just a lot of really exciting things we have planned there, and most exciting, we're just happy to get off the ground and begin to welcome in some of our alpha testers this week.
Yeah, as of right now, recording this just this morning, we let in the internal team to do some final testing, and the devs are hard at work tweaking a few of the bugs and feedback requests there. But we're getting ready to open it up to our first group of early adopters that we've affectionately dubbed the Nexus Pioneers. And one thing to note, if you guys are interested in testing this platform, we are rolling out a wait list, and we'll be opening more seats very soon to early adopters. There will be some perks and benefits that come with early adoption, as well as you get to help us shape the direction of this platform. So I will leave a link in the show notes for that. If you're interested, find us on socials. You'll see links to the wait list as well. But super exciting. And James, what are your, I know there's been a lot of sleepless nights and long hours and, overnight talks with dev teams and whatnot. What's got you most excited for the future of Nexus?
I would just say the community. I really want to see our vision come to life. And when I think about our vision, I think about sharing the experience that we're having, right? Every day I feel like it's every day we log on, we're doing something new. We're doing something different. We're solving a new problem. We're using, we're using AI to do it and quite frankly have fun doing it that way. And so while the platform does going to have a bunch of functionality to start with, it's going to grow, and we hope to get people involved in growing that functionality and sharing tools or sharing problems that you solved, or what have you, right? And I think there's a sort of a game aspect to it too, right? Where we want to make this fun, we want to make it super engaging. So we have a long list of things that we want to do to really enact the vision. But I think what has me most excited is seeing this materialize and seeing just the potential of it right now. And so I think we've got a lot of cool ideas, and we've got a lot of cool opportunities in front of us, and so that's what's got me excited right now.
Yeah, I think to me in this space, unless you're already very technically minded or have experience programming, it's almost like pick your AI pony and saddle up and just ride a company that is doing good work, doing it transparently and ethically, until you've learned the tricks of the trade to replicate and do it yourself. I'm not saying that should be enabled, but it certainly could be, because we are absolutely committed to transparency and ethical development. So we'd be an awesome pony to saddle up and ride into the sunset of AI future. But that's our goal, is to build something that is functional, efficient, increases productivity, but then creates the community around that to empower. I hate that word. I really do. AI uses it so much, but to help lift people into a better understanding and technical level
to
of
enable,
knowledge.
Perhaps?
To enable. Oh, man.
There it is.
Whoa.
Damn, that was original. Well, we are well over the hour mark now, and we've covered a lot, so we should probably wrap this up, unless any of you has some final thoughts, last commentary. I see Nicole in the back. She didn't chime in for our bit. She doesn't have the door
can't
open,
hear us.
So she wasn't privy. So
because we're on
Next
headsets now.
Oh, that's right. We got to get her a wireless set so she can eavesdrop in.
We're on headsets now, so she can't hear.
That's right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Another great episode. As always, be sure to subscribe, follow the podcast. This will be available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, coming very, very soon. Don't forget to check the show notes if you're interested in being a Nexus pioneer and early adopter tester. We would love your feedback, and we'd love to welcome you to the community. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys.
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.